Rediscovering Gita for the Modern World by Shrikant Soman. Based on essays on Gita by Sri Aurobindo. Chapter 6. Man and the Battle of Life. Continued from the previous episode 52, the Gita's Philosophy for a Fighter. Current episode 53. The Flaws of Modern Specialization. Old versus New, the Dangers of Total War. The Paradox of Social Systems. Key takeaways. Advantages of the modern system. The modern idea of common obligation for all societal activities has benefits, such as fostering greater solidarity and unity. The disasters of modern war. The logical extreme of the modern system's common military obligation has resulted in the absurdity of total war, where entire nations are mobilized. The irony of modern society. The passage points out the tragic irony of the modern system, where even those who preach peace and love, like religious ministers, are forced to participate in violence. The ancient Indian solution. In contrast, the ancient Indian system, through the concept of the Kshatriya, minimized the impact of war on the general population. Ennobling the warrior spirit. The ancient system aimed to ennoble and elevate the warrior spirit, not brutalize it. Main passage. Advantages of the modern system. We have, however, to accept that the modern idea of a common obligation in all the main departments of human activity has its own advantages. It helps in fostering greater solidarity, unity, and fullness in the life of the community. It results in a more all-round development of the complete human being, as opposed to some of the pitfalls of the old Indian system. The old Indian system eventually led to the endless divisions and over-specialization. It also resulted in the narrowing and artificial shackling of the life of the individual. Dangers of the modern system. On the other hand, we should not overlook the disadvantages of the modern system. In certain of its developments, the too logical application of it has led to grotesque and disastrous absurdities. This is very much evident in the character of modern war. It had its origin in the idea of a common military obligation, which is binding on every individual to defend and fight for the community by which he lives and profits. This has resulted in a system by which the whole manhood of the nation is hurled into the bloody trench to slay and be slain. It has not spared thinkers, artists, philosophers, priests, merchants and artisans. They have been torn from their natural functions. The whole life of the community gets disorganized. The reason and conscience is overridden. The system does not spare even the minister of religion, who is paid by the state or called by his function to preach the gospel of peace and love. He is forced to deny his creed and become a butcher of his fellow men. The irony and tragedy does not stop at violation of the conscience and nature by arbitrary flat of the military state. When the national defense is carried to an insane extreme, it makes its best attempt to become a national suicide. Benefits of ancient Indian system. On the other hand, the Indian civilization made it its chief aim to minimize the incidents and disaster of war. For this purpose, it limited the military obligation to the small class, who were marked out for this function by reason of their birth, nature and tradition. These people found in this activity their natural means of self-development, through the flowering of the soul in the qualities of courage, disciplined force, strong helpfulness, and chivalrous nobility. When the warrior's life is pursued in these activities under the stress of a high ideal, it gives them a field and opportunities. The rest of the community was in every way guarded from slaughter and outrage. Their life and occupations bore minimal impact of the battle. The combative and destructive tendencies of human nature were given a restricted field. It was confined in a sort of lists of duties and codes of conduct, so as to do the minimum amount of harm to the general life of the race. while at the same time it resulted in ennobling and elevating the spirit of the warriors instead of brutalizing it. This was achieved by subjecting the warriors to high ethical ideals. They were made to follow every possible rule of humanity and chivalry.